Hello again, this is James A. Adams, Words Bowl. This video I want to talk about and read some poems from my latest book, a book that I've titled Greater Than. And before I start, I want to remind you that you can find all of my books at Trafford.com. And just do a search on James A. Adams. You can find my books at Barnes & Noble as well as Amazon. And the first poem is from the title, Greater Than. And I'm going to read some of this. This poem is actually 3 pages long. I won't read all of it, I just read some of it to you. Right here and right now, I proclaim, I scream and I shout like that brilliant football coach from Grambling University, Brother Eddie Robinson, that my children are much greater than. Think of that math symbol. My children are much greater than the illegal laws designed to ensure that they remain confined. Listen, read, and study close. I am not yet proclaiming or promoting that my children are greater than any other man or his immigrant clan. From here to Haiti, my children are greater. They are not equal to, weaker than, comparable to, or less than any woman. They are great. Greater than the wicked spirits that labor without ceasing to scold and hold them back and hold them down. These foul spirits aren't fit or qualified to discipline or offer any advice or correction to my beautiful young children, because they are great. They are great and they are stronger than, superior to, and wiser than any deceitful way of their enemies. I don't often ask for assistance, but I will in this case. I need your help in reminding my children that they are the truth of greatness and they are greater than. Thank you all for your assistance. My children are not less than any man, the man that spent decades and blood money creating a false story and a false history for himself. My dear children, they are greater than any tool, any vice, any drama, any propaganda, any poison, tainted substance, and the collusion of their non-friends that aim to stir up confusion. Oh, these children of mine, they are greater than the watered-down education that doesn't include them, and their longest and finest traditions, their customs, their spirituality, their queens, their kings, the roads they travel other than the so-called Great Migration from South U.S. to North U.S. I say again, with the zeal of a man that has finally tasted and absorbed, swallowed the mental truth. And my children are greater than half-truths, full untruths. They are greater than chasing balls and untimely prank telephone calls. This next one I called me for this. And there are times in my own quietness and foolishness, or in my times of feeling kind of weak, I guess I ask the Creator a question that I shouldn't be asking. Now I need to be honest, I need to keep it real, and as the young folks say of today, I want to keep it 100. All of these are cool ways of being honest with my own self. Now there are moments when I am tempted to ask the Great Spirit why He would call me for this service, why the Spirit would call me and equip me to serve in this time of human existence. Hush my foolish mouth. I'm keeping it 100 here. Though the Great Spirit of wisdom and strength and mercy and kindness, compassion, I can't help but ask why He would call me in such times as these. Never mind my questions. My hope is that my answer to His call is sufficient. One of the things that we talk about, that you hear about, and being promoted as organic, sugar-free, and fat-free, and all this different terms supposed to be good for our health and good for our body. So I figured I would take that and play on it and use it in a poem. Organic poems, I call this one. I've had my share of light beer in my younger years. Well, looking at me now, it's hard to tell that I was once young. I've also had my share of domestic, international, and specialty beers. I don't have any comment on the malt liquors and the fine wines. I've never cared for any mayonnaise, whether it was regular or light mayonnaise. When it comes to the words that I write, the words that I am gifted, those words are fresh. They are organic and salty to some readers, sweet to some readers, but always open, bold, and from my heart. This next one I call Bolder Than Bold. And when I first started writing years ago, my whole thing was to be bold, was to be honest. And then as I read over the years different works, historical work by different authors, I found that those brothers and sisters were just as bold or bolder than I. Bolder than bold. I presumed I know better than to assume. I thought that I was bold, a bold thinker, a bold poet, and a bold writer, so I only presumed. Until I read David Walker's appeal, a preamble to the colored citizens of the world, Walker's thinking and writing are bolder than bold. That's what I found. Walker's appeal is so hard-hitting that I've read it 3 times thus far. Bolder than bold. I thought I was bold until I read the scholarly words of John G. Jackson in his book, Christianity Before Christ. Walter Rodney in his fine words on how Europe undeveloped Africa, and Carter G. Woodson's African heroes and heroines. My ideas of bold have risen to a new level now. The research, the words, and illustrations of J. Rogers and World's Great Men of Color, Volumes 1 and 2. And though that title has men, he wrote about women too. The resistance, the leadership, the power, the intellect, and the wisdom of men and women is not only bolder than bold, but also greater than the so-called greatest. This next one is not one of my more inspiring poems. It's realistic, and I think it's hard-hitting. I call it Babies for Sale. I've actually written this poem several different ways over the last few years, and I've recorded it as an audio version as well. It's hard-hitting, dramatic poem, I think. There's a poem that I wrote years ago with the title Babies for Sale. I recorded a song with the same title. The poem has been published, but as of this writing, as of this recording, the song is recorded, but it sits idle. Now, I take no great pride and satisfaction in writing a poem and a song about precious babies being sold. I'm not a braggart like these self-appointed and fraudulent leaders of this generation. I can't find any reason to brag, to celebrate, to hype, to Skype, to tweet about the tragedy of babies being sold. We've got babies for sale. While I can't remove myself from the ungodly actions of humans, I am disgruntled, I am disappointed, dissatisfied, and in disbelief that the citizens of so-called upright, religious, sports-loving, and God-fearing people have sunk so low spiritually that they sell, that they swap, they trade, they barter, or they abandon their babies. This next poem is really a thinking person poem. And I've actually questioned why do we believe what we believe, and I'm saying that any person can justify, can spit out what they heard about their beliefs. But can they truly explain, can they live out, can they hold on to their beliefs when times are challenging? I call this one, have you ever thought deeply? Have you ever thought deeply about yourself? Have you ever climbed inside of your own mind to discover the best, the brilliance, the greatness of yourself? Have you ever considered how and why you do you? Meaning the choices that you make when going about important matters of life and when you share the space of life and the planet with other human beings. Have you considered your motivations? Have you thought deeply about the materials, the things and services that you pursue? Have you thought deeply? Have you thought about what you believe in and your reasons for those beliefs? I think reason for beliefs requires an analysis that a justification can't provide. Any fool can spit out irrational and half-cocked justifications for their dangerous beliefs or behaviors. Have you ever been in the quiet of your own mind and your own thoughts? Have you walked away after being in the quiet with improved ideas and thoughts after you spent that time in the quiet? Where your ideas improve, where your beliefs improve, and your thoughts improve. But we must admit that our previous ideas were short and were leaving us dangling. A person must be willing to admit that they were in the wrong in their original thinking. I am presenting questions and statements that I have had to answer myself. After your time in the quiet, did you discover conflict or hypocrisy in what you believe and what you read or studied and what is deep inside of you? Oh, for the record and for my own protection, this deep thinking is not a one-time or once-a-week thing. These ideas that you hold, the beliefs that nourish your soul, and the beliefs that you live with, that drive you and that you practice, are these your ideals or someone else's? Do they line up with the Great Spirit? I am presuming that you believe in the Great Spirit, what some brothers and sisters call the universal God. Are you willing to be different? Are you willing to be different from the pack? Are you willing? Are you willing to be ostracized for your beliefs? Are you willing to be ostracized by other boys and girls and teenage girls that masquerade as men and women because you don't share their ideals? Have you ever thought deeply